Unless you've been living under a rock, you would know that the Vegas Golden Knights just won the Stanley Cup. They beat the Florida Panthers in 5 games, and I think by game 2 it was pretty clear who was going to win the series. Florida was able to take game 3 in overtime and keep game 4 close, but other than that, the whole series was basically a blowout. Vegas ran the entire series. And to no surprise, after the playoffs, Florida released their list of injuries to all their players, and they were incredibly banged up. What I think is surprising is how healthy Vegas was by the end of it. Most hockey fans would agree that between the two conferences, the East is better than the West. And when you look at who both teams had to go through to get to the finals, I would say that Florida definitely had a tougher path. Florida had to get through the Bruins, the Leafs, and the Hurricanes to make the finals, and Vegas would have to take out the Jets, the Oilers, and the Stars. Bobrovsky had a large part in carrying Florida to the finals, along with Matthew Tkachuk. Both teams had very different paths on their way to the Stanley Cup final. So you need 12 wins to get to the finals. Florida had 6 overtime wins. 3 more of those wins were 1-goal games. They had to fight every game. They had to earn every one of those wins. Even when Florida swept the Hurricanes, all 4 of those games were 1-goal games and could have gone either way. And I think those 1-goal games are where players are going to get banged up the most. And when your top lines are playing heavy minutes, those players are bound to get injured. When you look at Vegas's run to the finals, it was the complete opposite. They had 6 games where they won by 3 or more goals. And I'm sure you've heard it before, but the depth Vegas has is insane. Because of their depth, Vegas is able to distribute their minutes so well. It's rare to see an NHL team distribute the minutes to all 6 of their defensemen so evenly. Even Vegas's bottom forward line. For the last 10 games of the playoffs, they averaged 10 minutes on ice, and they could have easily averaged more if they didn't have so much depth on that team. Compare that to Florida's bottom line. Florida doesn't want their 4th line out there any longer than they have to be. Florida relied so heavily on their top-end players, which is probably why they were so banged up by the end of the playoffs. And Florida didn't see much point production beyond those top players, so they had reason to play them heavy minutes. Vegas always had a player that would step up and produce for the team. Vegas was able to average 4 goals a game over the playoffs. Injuries are just part of the playoffs, and teams shouldn't be surprised when their players are in shambles by the end of it. But I think teams should be surprised when they're as healthy as Vegas looked by the end of the playoffs. Obviously, their depth is a huge reason behind that, but I think their path to the finals also played a big role in it too. Let me know in the comments if you think Vegas had a way easier path than Florida to the finals, or if it's the playoffs and all games are equal and the depth is what really mattered most for Vegas.